Hello, my name is Ben Carlson with Normal Earth Landscaping. We're here today to talk about the North Arc Sports Complex, both the baseball field and the softball field. So at Normal Earth, we empower farmers, ranchers, and gardeners in our community to foster collaborative thinking, to further drive agronomy innovation. By providing passion, knowledge, and ethical farming methods, we help businesses grow organically and nurture healthy world-first mindset. We had an opportunity to take a look at the reports that came back on your fields, and we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about what we found, how we may be able to help you have a better stand of grass for better playability and durability. So a couple of questions were posed to us about maybe closing some of this knowledge gap that we have about some of the terms that you might see on a soil testing report. So things like soil pH and cation exchange capacity. So looking at cation exchange capacity, we're looking at the soil's negative charge. And a lot of the minerals and nutrients that plants need are attracted to those soil components. And the higher the capacity, the greater the ability. Now there is a trade-off that if you get too high with clayey soils, that the plants can't necessarily get those nutrients because they're so tightly bound to the soil colloids or molecules, smallest particles on those soils. The other side of things is at lower pHs. Typically we would find things like sandy soils can't hold on to those molecules either. So there really is an optimal balance where we try and find a good soil pH to hold all the nutrients that those plants might need. And actually, for the grasses that we have, we're pretty close. But what we do have is suboptimum fertility based on the cation exchange rate, which means that we will have to apply fertilizers in a more frequent fashion. We don't have a lot of organic molecules in this soil, so instead of just 1 or 2 fertilizations, we would recommend that you would split that fertilization up, the total pounds per acre, over a number of periods, and we'll get into our recommendations in just a moment. So the soil health and grasses that we would be looking to overseed, we're getting ready to discuss some of those grasses in the next slide, but we're going to talk about pH right now. So pH is that measure of alkalinity in the soil, and like I said previously, grass at North Arc is 6.1 to 6.3, and the ideal range for that pH is somewhere between 5.8 and 7, depending on which of the grass actual types we select. So over here on the left-hand side, you see the Melich 3, which was the report that was done on your soils. And we can see here we've got phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, and calcium levels. And what we're looking at here is we're trying to find optimum levels and make some recommendations. Some of these that you have are actually high. So the baseball field itself is high in calcium, but the softball field is low. So as you're looking at what you might put on those fields, you're going to want to avoid any of those high calcium fertilizers or any additives that you might put on the field. Whereas in the softball field, I have a recommendation here for maybe adding a little bit of calcium this year and over the next couple of years. We want to do this slowly. This is a several-year process, and it's very hard to turn around a stand of grass or a field in just one season. Likewise, we have high phosphorus in the baseball field. We get low in the softball. So for focusing our efforts and our money and our dollars that we've been allotted, we might want to spend a little more time looking at what we could do at the softball field to bring that up. And the softball field is actually, from the testing that we've done, much higher compaction rates too. So we're going to look at some ways that we can change the actual soil itself through aeration and through mechanical practices to get a better soil so that it takes those chemicals better. And so we're also looking at potassium, and this one is a nutrient that is high in the infield, but is just medium in the outfield. Well, in the infield, we have higher compaction. We have a smaller surface area, and we also have more traffic on that. So that might be expected. So an aeration Might not be possible due to the nature of the infield itself and the mound, but it could be something to look at. And then potassium is also, again, low in the softball field, and thoughts might be that softball needs a lot more of your attention, and it needs more of your dollars, and we should be looking at that appropriately. So 2 of the grasses with the current pH that we would recommend, and these are player grasses, and these are tested over in Fayetteville, would be the Turfway Tall Fescue, which was the highest rated in 2014. And then also we have in Kentucky bluegrass, and so these are both cool season grasses, which would be talking about planting these and overseeding these later, but these cool season grasses have some of the best ground cover through spring, summer, and fall, and their quality ratings seem to remain the highest throughout the season. So while you might see some of them have higher green up, they don't necessarily have that durability and seasonality that we would be looking for in a high performance grass. So recommendations would be the Turfway and after midnight grasses based on our data here in Northwest Arkansas. So let's talk about what we need to do to actually prepare ourselves for seeding. We need to dethatch, we need to then aerate the field, top dress the field, and then we can begin seeding. So we're looking at seeding in the spring between March and April after doing all of those mechanical practices, and then again we could look at an early fall before the first hard freeze or the late fall after the first hard freeze. A lot of people have thought that putting down seed after the hard freeze is a waste of money. Well, actually what we're doing is that seed is stratifying itself over the season, and in the spring, once it's gone through its full freeze-thaw cycle, then we would see that grass seed actually has the potential to be a better candidate for your stand, for your playability. Let's talk about some chemicals that we would look at as fertilizers. So recommendations on the softball field, we would recommend to apply 175 pounds of calcium per acre, and that is due to our low calcium, which is also affecting your CEC ratios and some of your macronutrients and plant uptakes. The 750 pounds per acre of gypsum, calcite, or calcitic. Now that would have to be adjusted over a number of years. I would not recommend applying that much calcium in one season, but those are the goals that we're trying to look for in the testing that comes back that says how many pounds are actually in our Melic 3 nutrient reports. So that is the goal, is to get in somewhere in that range. The softball and baseball field, we would look to apply 4 to 6 pounds of nitrogen per acre. Both the softball and baseball field are approximately the same nitrogen requirements. And the softball field needs phosphorus at approximately 1 pound per acre. So with phosphorus, it's always recommended that you go low. It is a slow-acting fertilizer, so it's always recommended to go low first, because once you have high phosphorus, it is almost impossible to get rid of it, and it takes many, many years. So let's look at fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides. We're going to recommend that we do some February, April, July, and September are the months that we are going to be focused on what we're going to be doing on this field. So we believe in eco-friendly products, and the most recent research has come out that a urea blended with a slow-release nitrogen is going to be the best at reducing ammonification or releasing and leaching those very expensive fertilizers back into the air. And also some eco-friendly natural products that could be applied would be bone meal, which is a medium release, or enriched rock phosphate on the softball field, which is a very slow release. The Gardens Alive product is very minimalist. These two products that we're about to show you are actually quite impressive for what they're able to do. They're relatively inexpensive, and they can be applied without any risk for injury or potential injury to those players who are on the fields day in and day out. So keeping our people safe is just as important. So we're looking here at the Iron X Selective Weed Killer. This is a selective herbicide, and it only targets those weeds, and you don't have to necessarily worry about those grasses. So it's going to target your dandelions, stinkweeds, chickweeds, thistle, corn spurry, sheep sorrel, and annual bluegrass. Hoa annua, once you have it, it's like a rash that never goes away, and this will help you with that. Herbicidal soaps that we're looking at is it's going to control and suppress some of those broadleaf weeds such as plantain, which we all know is in every one of our fields and is not easy to get rid of, and it's very unsightly. So it also works on grass, algae, and moss. If you have any areas, especially being at the bottom of the hill, if you have any wet spots that are mossy, this works. So at Normal Earth, passing this on to you, we believe in giving 110%, and by using ethical agronomy methods, we try to help communities grow organically and foster a world-first mindset. We thrive because our knowledge and great team behind our service. As our team often quotes, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. We do wish you the best of luck and have a good season. Thank you very much. And at the end of this presentation, I've included all of my links that will be shared with you. Some of these are scientific journals that we've read, and others are general good advice, so those can be found here. Links to the Gardens of Life products are there, as well as the data that you can look at for the grasses themselves. The Web Soil Survey was used to look at the actual soils themselves. The recommendations that Web Soil Survey was not as specific as the testing that we received. But one thing that I would leave you with here is that the phosphorus that you have in the baseball field is incredibly high, and the calcium as well is incredibly high. So as you're selecting things to put down on the baseball field, you might look at eliminating any calcium. That could take 4 years or so to reduce that calcium back down to optimal, which will give you a better stand of grass and better playability, better weed resistance. So the healthier that you can make this stand of grass, especially with the high traffic that you have on it, I would recommend overseeding with some of the high quality products that you have. And over time, we believe that you can improve your grass. So I do think that has answered most or all of the questions that you've asked us, and I do sincerely thank you for your time and wish you the best of luck. If you need to reach out or would like to have any discussions, please do so. My information is included in this slide presentation. And on behalf of the North Fork Agriculture team, and those of us who've spent the last several years learning, practicing, and implementing these things, we do wish you the best of luck, because we're partners in this as agronomists and grass nerds. We want to give you the best playability and durability that we can. So thank you for your time, and go Pioneers.